her, and tells her that she's this or she's that or whatever, the devastation is no different than the days of the dinosaurs when somebody was pinned up against the chain link fence. So it doesn't happen just in school. It doesn't happen just on the streets. It's something for us all to be aware of.
One last question is, on the Mark site, you showed a section for parents for, I believe, cyberbullying.
That's correct.
Texting. Is the texting to help parents identify the texting, or is that tied into like a text a tip where that can be used almost in the same ways as they're talking about increase the peace, where...
Sort of a site where you can go to.
I know, yeah, you have down there, you have a web page, but are there any thoughts of setting up a text line where students can
voluntarily? The caution to that, and actually this came up through Dr. Elizabeth Englinger is the head of Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center. Somebody asked almost verbatim the question that you're asking. And the tricky part of text information about a potential bullying event is that if it's anonymous without names, who, when, where, what, even though it's not my own name as the person who's being the victim. If I don't know who, if I don't, John in my class of 30 kids, or John, the 7th grader, said he was going to get me after school today, and that's all they say on the text message. How do you investigate John? So we tried to design it in a way that we got as much information about the alleged aggressor from the anonymous student, so that we had some ability to some details that we could truly get down to, drill down to where that kid was, what's happening, the pattern of 2 or 3 or 4 kids saying, yep, that's the guy named John who's doing these things to several of us. So there is certainly a value to the text kind of awareness thing. There is a downside to it, according to Dr. England in her presentation.
Jessica, you want to say something on this?
I know one of my friend's parents, for her cell phone, they had, I'm not sure what company, how much it cost, but the parent actually purchased like an add-on for the cell phone where they could actually receive all the texts that are sent to and from my friend's cell phone.
Really?
So I'm not sure if any parents were interested in looking into that. I'm not sure how much it cost, what company it even was, but I remember my friend mentioning that at one time.
Very interesting.
I don't text bad things, so.
But Bob, in a group where bullying is taking place, 99% of these phones now have camera options that it's very easy. I mean, if bullying is taking place, it's very easy for me to sit back here and take a photo and forward that to a anonymous line. Right. So I mean, there are ways that I'm sure you're looking into where it says tools and things in place. So.
One, and I should have included the slide, so many of them, but one of the very, very interesting questions asked of freshmen at Bridgewater State University. How many of you feel, question to parents, how many of you feel that you are doing a good job monitoring your students' use of the internet? 59% or something like that, in the 50s, high 50s, say, I think I'm doing a great job. They asked the same question to the students. How many of you feel that your parents are doing a great job monitoring your activities on the internet? 2%. 2%. And do you know what the difference was? Kind of a trick question, but it's one of those, oh yeah. Smartphones. Parents don't see smartphones as a computer. It's a computer. And so whether they're sitting, even the parent that says, I took my desktop, I took it out of this room, I put it on the kitchen table, and for some reason, he's not on the computer at all. with a smartphone. There's just so many things happening so quickly, and our perception of the function of telephone, for example, is very different than it is. So those are the things that are part of education, things that we just wouldn't think about.
Jessica, you're next.
I was wondering, for the community staff training, would they consist of the same material that would be given to them? And if not, what would be different?
Same material as I presented tonight?
Yeah.
No,
Would they be given the same information about bullying and taught in the same manner of how to deal with it?
Okay, the training that will be done for staff will include an overview of the law, but importantly, their training is going to be how to be the eyes and the ears of an adult in a building full of a lot of kids. So their training is really geared to how to be good at, number one, listening, looking, paying attention, but secondly, the steps in intervening. Who do I go to? I'm off to my English class, I don't have time. Who do I go to? How do I get that information to somebody so that this is stopped? How do I ask kids general questions that give me an idea that I need to move this to the next level? So it is different, and it is different, certainly different than the training that occurred for the investigators. It is certainly different than the information that will be provided to students. I think the focus for students, rightfully so, is, or certainly is going to emphasize the role of the bystander.
Thank you.
Donna, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add.
I would just like to say that it was an honor to work with Bob. He did a tremendous job in leading this group, and I thank him for that opportunity. I think bullying is an issue that is one of the, outside of education, one of the most prime things that we have to worry about in our schools, and it is so different from the elementary school begins and the worst grades. And the big problem that we had is there had to be different areas as the ages grow. As you're talking about the bullying and keeping track of your young people and phones and like this, we're in an age now where once a child is 16, they have to be on every meeting, and a parent has hands tied in many ways of what they can do. And once they hit 17, 18, it behooves all of us to work together. I think we've seen in our community what's been going on. A lot of this is because the kids don't have the proper respect for one another, and I think this plan brings forth the respect. The curriculum that Bob alluded to is going to be tremendous. We had samples of that in the meeting. And one of the main things of the curriculum that the children will be getting and the kids will be getting is on respecting one another, and Dr. Rabinovich touched on that. It comes from the home, it comes from the community, and it has to come from the schools. And if your kids aren't brought up to respect you and your home, they're not going to respect the teachers, they're not going to respect their other students. So it comes to teaching respect, and this MARC plan, which I've been familiar with for many years, and pushing for this, teaches respecting one another and treating one another like you want to be treated. The plan is there was a lot of talk and meetings and blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak, that went into this. I think it's a good, solid plan, and we will be getting together again to see how it's going. I believe 100% of the committee said they would stick with that.
Yes.
And so it's not like we're all going to, okay, this is done now, we'll just walk out the door. We all want to see it work, and we want to see it work well. And I thank you, Bob, for including me and for you as part of this plan, as a member of the community. I don't have a child in the Wareham schools anymore, he's now in college, but he did complete 13 years all in Wareham schools. So my heart is here, and thank you for the opportunity to serve in this way.
Thank you. Rachel?
Not really a question, because I think it's still a little early. I know that as this is going to as it plays out, as it moves along, I think we'll start to, once the feedback comes back from parents and so forth, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think my biggest question is bystanders, because I think that's where the power is going to lie. The other reality is, I think when adults are talking, most of the time, kids are only hearing what Charlie Brown heard from all adults in their cartoons. Is there, and I know it's early, is there a plan to try to get a leadership groups in maybe like even the middle school and high school, the older kids, that will help to promote getting the information out either to assemblies or whatever, I mean, whether it be even incorporating kids like in drama to come up with something that can put the information out there to the student body, to keep reinforcing that, to keep building on that? Do we have a plan? I mean, because I hear the teachers and the, the staff and the education of that. Is there a plan to bring up the push for leadership in our kids? Because I think that's where the power comes from, in kind of stepping in and kind of breaking these patterns.
Yeah. My answer really has to go from school to school and also program.
It's harder with the younger kids, of
Peace
course.
Builders certainly has that as an element of it. It is really a whole school taking on the responsibility of making schools respectful and using student leaders to be able to send that message out. I think that, like most schools, we can always expand on that. And I think it needs to be flexible because the situation, the dynamic in a school, my experience in the few years that I've been around education has been, things change. And there's a need at different times to have that look differently. So I do think that is there. I think our best advocates are students and their energy and willingness and investment in being able to have those things change. Kids don't like it when things aren't going well. And they do want to know how to make it better. And I think that programmatically, things like Peace Builders and responsive classroom and open circle, certainly that is to a great extent what is part of what their interest is.
And the other question, actually, Barry, you had mentioned surveys and so forth. What is